Hello, welcome back to the Villa View. It's time.
Right, Dan, we'll keep this casual, we'll keep it fairly short. Obviously, we've had a podcast go out today as we're recording this one. You've talked about the Fulham game massively in depth, which is great, and highly recommend going people watch that. But it's a day later now after you've recorded that, and I think by the time this goes out, it'll be one day until the playoff final. So how are you feeling now? One day later, one day closer.
Still nervous. I wish it would just hurry up, and even when Saturday arrives, it's going to be a long way.
Yeah.
For that 5 o'clock kick-off, I can envisage a sleepless night Friday through to Saturday as well. So I just wanted to come because I just want to know what we're doing next season. I'm looking forward to the day, and I'm looking forward to being with the Villa fans and having a good time before the game, having a good laugh and the build-up and everything. But it does just need to get here now because I am really pretty nervous. Not because I don't believe in the team, it's just what's at stake's making me nervous. Yeah,
weirdly, I'm not that nervous as yet. I think now I've sat down to record this and we're talking about it a little bit, I'm starting to feel like that moment where this whole season sort of rides on Saturday now. You lose and it's another year in the Championship, you win Premier League, everyone's buzzing with that. I will be nervous, but right now, just because I haven't really thought about it, I put a tweet out earlier asking what people were thinking. There was a mixture of comments, either people saying they were bricking it or they were really confident. I think it's really quite interesting actually to see that contrast to the fans that are either really nervous like yourself, or on the other hand they're just thinking, oh yeah, we're going there to win and that's it.
No, obviously we are going there to win, and I believe that we can win, but I've always felt that this season has gone quite quickly in general. But the last month I feel like we've just been waiting for this, and I feel like it's gone slow since we had that second leg as well. It feels forever ago. Yeah. Now it feels like it was 3 years ago or something stupid. So I'm just at the point now I just want it here, and I want to know. I think if I was offered to find out what was going to happen right now, I think I'd take it because I'm just so desperate to know.
I think I read something that Bruce said about that they had to like stop a training session before the lads kick lumps out of each other because the anticipation's there, even with the players as well. Having been to the playoffs before with Hull, and several other players have been in the playoff situation as well, they'll know how to handle the day as a whole as well. The build up, where you're stopping in your hotel, what you eat, what time you eat, what time you get to the ground, the warm up, all those things add up. And that's something where our experienced players will hopefully be able to carry us over the line.
Yeah, manager-wise, I think we've got the most experienced man in this situation, so he'll know exactly what to do. I mean, I believe that the players know who's playing, so I think that probably helps people relax as well, because the last thing you want going into a game like this is players worrying about whether they've got the nod and they're going to be in that first 11 or in the 18 at all. So everyone should know now, so I think that helps. Everyone can just get on, and the people that aren't involved are important as well, because there'll be people that aren't involved that have been in big situations, and that they'll need to be geeing the lads up and making sure those that are starting are ready as well. So everyone who's at the club, from people that are on the medical side to people that are just working behind the scenes to the players and the manager, everyone's got a part to play here now in the lead up to what is a massive game.
Well, it's like you said, right now as fans, we just want to have our future sorted. The players in a similar situation will be thinking in the build-up, probably since the playoff positions were confirmed, am I going to be playing at Wembley if we get there? And for those players to know now, and as you say, there's substitutes who don't, that whole mindset of them knowing now whether they're in the first 11 or not, they can settle into that and know that, right, I'm not starting, maybe a Scott Hogan or somebody like that, and think, well, if it comes to it and I'm called off the bench, I'm going to do a job.
Yeah, and they've got to be ready. Anything can happen. Someone can go off injured after 15 minutes. And we saw with Brie against Cardiff, wasn't even on the bench, and the next thing you know, you're on the pitch and you're playing. So everyone's got to be ready. Anything can happen, and sometimes in these occasions, strange things do happen, and it could be an unlikely person that steps up and ends up being the hero. But it sounds stupid. I almost think it's easier being a player in this situation, because you've actually got some control over what happens. I mean, Bruce standing on the sideline during the game and the fans, you've got absolutely, I mean, Bruce has obviously got more control, but as a fan, you've got no control over what happens, and that's the hard thing. Like you want us to win so much, you want us to get back to the Premier League so much, but at the end of the day, all you can do is sing your heart out on the day and just pray that the lads do the business for you. I believe that they will. I believe that they'll be ready for the big games. They've been ready all season, and I can imagine them in training all week, just raring to get going. probably come on to it, but the Fulham manager's probably delivered a little bit of our team talk for us as well. I can't believe he's come out and said what he said, because we've seen in the past when Melbourne came out and said some stuff about Birmingham, we lost 3-0.
Yeah, well, we'll get into those comments a little bit later. First of all, I wanted to ask you a question that I don't think you talked about on the podcast, but if I had to ask you who you think will be our key man, for example, you'd probably say a Grealish or a Chester or something like that. But who would you think, say if we do win this game, we get back to the Premier League, which player do you think will have done a good job that maybe goes under the radar, a bit like a player that you don't expect to step up and score the winning goal, but a player that will be vital to our success this Saturday?
I think Snodgrass hasn't scored for a while, and I think he could end up being the one. I said in the podcast that he works hard every game, but his work rate in the semis was another level to even the work rate he'd put in. You could see he knew how much it meant, and he knew you almost find that little bit extra that you can't usually find. So I think he's important.
Using the semi-final as an example, especially the home leg, I felt this Snodgrass, and he works hard anyway. I'm not saying he doesn't work hard, but he worked harder.
Yeah.
In that game straight away, he was sprinting around, closing down, and he doesn't always do that in a normal game. But I think you up your game.
I mean, Jedinak hadn't played that many games leading up to the semi-final, and he was the one that ended up being the decisive man. I mean, someone like Bjarnason could end up coming off the bench and making an impact, whether it be defensively or offensively. If we're chasing the game, Onuma could end up on the pitch. So it could be anyone.
So for my little document, I've been going through each of the players in the squad and just seeing what their CV holds in terms of promotion and playoff experience. So I'm just going to skim through a few already. I think you've already talked about it in the podcast from the week before this one's, maybe in the week before that. Here we go.
Your notes will be better than Tom's.
So first of all, Johnston, he got a clean sheet in the League One playoff final with Preston, and they won promotion to the Championship a few years ago. So he's a player a youngster in relative terms to the rest of the squad who's been in a playoff final at Wembley before. Elmo, Snodgrass, obviously all with Hull. Jedinak, captain at Palace. Horahan, Barnsley in League One. Bree didn't make any of the playoff games in that season, but did contribute with 19 appearances that year. So he was around a team that won the playoffs. Grabban, obviously the one I've noted down with the most experience. He finished 5th with Millwall and beat Leeds in the semi, lost to Scunthorpe in the final in League One, promoted to the Championship with Bournemouth, promoted to the Premier League with Norwich, and lost last year's playoff final with Reading versus Huddersfield. No promotion for John Terry, but obviously his record speaks for itself. And Jack Grealish is another one who's no playoff experience, but a player that's been to Wembley and ran the show against Liverpool when he was 18 or whatever. Massive list of players there with playoff experience, promotion experience. I think Adoma went up with Middlesbrough automatically. The manager as well, obviously done it 3-4 times. That's got to count for something, surely.
That's why I think if you go through their squad, I'm betting not many have been they've been in playoff situation because they were in the semi-finals and they got beat last year, but I bet not many of them have played at Wembley, and I bet not many of them have had the big occasion experience that our players have had as well. So I think that can only be a plus because you know what to expect from the day. Okay, I get what Jokanovic is saying. They've got the younger, more dynamic team. They've got the quicker team, but mentally, and let me tell you from speaking to people who've played for Villa and people that play for Villa now, you can't underestimate the mental side of the game. It's massive. That's why players that are switched on are the ones that who might be less talented are the ones that sometimes make it than someone that's got all the talent in the world, but mentally they can't get it right. So I think it's absolutely vital, those experiences. And if I'm being honest, I'd rather be going in as us than them. I think obviously they've got a good chance. They're a good side, but I don't think I'd swap what we've got for what they've got.
Yeah, I think that experience and that know-how is vital, as you say. I think there was a report that after the Middlesbrough semi that the players were fairly subdued anyway because they understand that there's no job been done yet. But I think Mile Jedinak basically came in and said, calm down, we've still got to go to the final and do the job there. And it's a player like him, and that if I'd have got more time, I'd have looked into those actual results at Wembley and things like that. But it might have been that the season that Palace came up, they were 1-0 down at half-time.
I remember the game. I can remember it.
Oh, okay.
They won 1-0 late penalty.
See, I knew you'd know. But there might be an example out there where a player was 1-0 down at half-time, let's say, and they'll know how to react to that situation as well, just having playoff experience in the past. And like I say, Fulham won't have any of that. Now, obviously, just because you've been there before doesn't mean it's a shoo-in that you go there and say, right, well, we've been here before, so we know what to do. Fulham could turn up, and Sessegnon, as a young kid, could run the show like Grealish did a few years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
There's all this talk that Sessegnon could flop on the big stage, but Grealish didn't for us as a kid in an FA Cup semi. So, there's positives and negatives for both sides, isn't there?
I almost feel like there was no expectation on Grealish that day, though. It was his 5th or 6th start or something ridiculous, whereas Sessegnon has been built up so much.
True.
I mean, the interviews after their semi-final, it was like he was the second coming of Jesus Christ. They mentioned how old he was about 7 million times.
I saw you tweet about that.
He's been absolutely built up as if he's this superstar. So I'd say he could. I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying he could freeze with Grealish. He went there and had a freedom, and Villa went there with a freedom because no one expected anything. The way people are talking, they're talking like Fulham are the favourites.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that the media build-up to this puts Fulham as favourite just because they finished above us. Does that give us the licence to have a little bit more freedom in this game as the underdogs?
I don't think we're going there as absolute underdogs. Obviously, when we played Liverpool in that semi-final, we were underdogs, and we did very well. We played very well. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen Villa put in. But I think the important thing is that we do go there and play with a bit of freedom, because I think if we sit back and a bit pensive, I don't think that'll work. I think we got away with it against Middlesbrough, and I think it was a good game plan because they weren't good enough to break us down. I think Fulham would have that bit more nous to break us down if we go there and sit back. So you've got to find a balance, and hopefully Bruce knows that, and Bruce will apply that to the side.
Twanzebe played against Sessegnon, and to be honest, I know he scored Sessegnon, but he shut him down. Really, he was our best player, Twanzebe. So I don't know how fit he is. You wouldn't think he'd play after a few months out. I think he hasn't played for a while, so you wouldn't think he'd come in. But he shuts him down, so he can be shut down. I know he's very, very good, and he's a very young kid, very, very, very talented lad, but kids can show inconsistencies as well. Like, he's never played on a stage like this under so much pressure. I mean, to be fair, pressure, he doesn't seem like pressure gets to him, particularly playing every week since he was 16. But he can be shut down for sure, just like our talents can be shut down as well. So I just don't think it's necessary to specifically counter it. You can watch how he plays and say to whoever's playing right back, this is what he does. Yep. Do your best to stop him. But I don't think he's not one who swaps flanks or anything, so I don't think it's anything that needs to be specifically countered.
I put together a few graphics that I think some of them will have been in this video and some on social media of quotes from the players in the build to this game. There's one I wanted to mention to you specifically for this one, which was Sam Johnson on Steve Bruce. The past few months have been awful for him. Hopefully we can do it for the gaffer too, for being there for us in this very difficult period. Now, obviously, with what's happened to Bruce, is massive tragedy to even be there on the subs bench and to be in training with what he's gone through is admirable in itself. But if I was a player in that situation, I'd be running through absolute brick walls for Bruce, especially in this playoff game now, how big the crowds are, what the support's been like, getting that final push into the Premier League, you've got all these big players around you. The manager's gone through this tough time. Is that a factor in this as well? Is that something that you can think of, that the players will look up to Bruce, see him on the sideline, I think we need to do this for the gaffer?
I think you shouldn't need any extra motivation in a game like this. Going up with Aston Villa should be enough, but I also think that stuff like this, it does add something. It adds another element that obviously wouldn't be there if something bad hadn't happened. And the players they'll want to do it anyway, but it's almost like they'll have a little bit of an extra incentive because Bruce has, as you say, been through the mill. He's still been turning up and been there day in, day out. And I think he's a little bit of a father figure to the players. He's very good. One thing Bruce is very good at, and people point out his faults all the time, but he has an awful lot of good qualities as well that I think far outweigh the bad. But he knows how to get a dressing room in order, and he knows how to create a good positive atmosphere at a football club, and that's exactly what he's done. I mean, you look at the photos of the players training and you can see when they're smiling, that's not a forced thing. They're not playing up to the cameras. They're genuinely enjoying being part of that dressing room and playing for Aston Villa. And Bruce deserves an enormous amount of credit because the characters he's brought in and the way he's got them together and got them to gel, not just on the pitch but off the pitch as well. I think that's commendable because we've had some absolutely rotten dressing rooms, and he would have walked into a dressing room that would have probably been up there as one of the worst dressing rooms he'd ever been a part of. And to turn that round so quickly, it's something I don't think he's got enough credit for over the last year or so. To get that dressing room right again from the turmoil and the state it was in, I I think it's massive. And people go on about he's not a modern day manager, but it takes someone with a certain personality and a certain amount of charisma to do that. And I think he's done it.
So there was a competition, I think, a few weeks back where you could send in your messages of support to put up in the dressing room like they did in the FA Cup final a few years ago. Something popped up today that I saw on your Twitter that the Fulham manager made a few comments that we were an old and tired team or something like that, and you said, oh, stick that up in the dressing room and that's all the motivation you need.
Yes, for be honest, I expect they are old and tired team, and they're gonna show some weaknesses because they are already experienced team, and that's it. I am not thinking so much in this way. It's I have players 17 now, 18-year-olds. They use players 36-year-old. All the players is completely legal use on the field.
Balmy comments on the eve of a playoff final. I thought when I watched the video, I don't know whether that minute clip has been taken out of context or anything, which is possible. We're going to target John Terry because he's got no pace and things like that. It just seems like this massive fighting talk, really cocky, confident, arrogant nature. Those things seem very silly to say to me.
I mean, first off, it's not his native tongue, so there is a chance that he's trying to say something and he's not quite getting it across the way he means. But on the other hand, to that, he's naming names, which I think shows a little bit of a lack of class, singling someone out. That, for example, that's something that I don't think Bruce would ever do. And when Bruce is doing his press conferences, our press officer Tommy Jordan sits next to him, I think, pretty much every time when Bruce is doing his press conference. It looked like Jukanovic was sat on his own, but if there'd have been anyone or a press officer sat next to him, they would have put their head in their hands, because that is not a clever thing to be saying, because it's only going to go one way. John Terry's played however many games he's played. That's not going to come into John Terry and him suddenly think, oh God, Fulham, what am I going to do? A bit of pace, because he's dealt with pace before. He wasn't quick 10 years ago, but he's quick in the head, and that hasn't gone. It's like Gareth Barry. He's never fast, but he doesn't change the way he plays the game. So John Terry, those comments, all they're going to do is G him up to play better. It's not going to make him play worse, in my opinion. And now it will be the same with all the lads. They'll be even more determined to get one over on him and make him look stupid. I think it did show a little bit of a lack of nous, in my opinion. And as I say, Mellberg came out and said it, and Mellberg's an Aston Villa legend. We all loved him, but all he did that day when he came out and said what he said, he did lose his team talk for them. And so Steve Bruce was manager then, and Steve Bruce went there and beat us 3-0, so hopefully it has the same impact. So that's it, final match preview of the season, hopefully the last ever one we do with Aston Villa as a Championships team. I've got absolutely everything crossed, and genuinely I am still very, very nervous. But we did chuck in some podcast clips, as you may well have noticed if you haven't managed to watch this video all the way through. We did that because the podcast essentially was a match preview, because there was literally nothing else to talk about other than the playoffs. So that was in there for that reason and that reason alone. We weren't being lazy, we just didn't see the point of us going over stuff we'd already spoken about. If you did already watch the podcast or listen to the podcast and you've had to put yourself through me and Tom again, I can only apologise. So that's it. Thank you ever so much for watching, and thank you ever so much as well for all your support through the season. If you're not already subscribed to the Villa View with your post notifications on, then if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. We'll still be trying to get content out there over the summer, so stick with the channel through what will be a quiet period. Give the video a like if you have enjoyed it, and comment below with your thoughts leading into the playoff final. Are you nervous, excited, poo in the bed, a mixture of all? Just tell us how you're feeling in the comments, and we'll do our best to reply to as many as possible. Thanks ever so much for all your support once again. Up the Villa. If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.